After a few hours on the road, we reached the province of Krabi and right into the heart of Onang. Bought some long-tail tickets and we're on our way towards Tonsai Beach.
How we roll?
It's in the same direction of Railay Beach, but is in its own separate corner of the peninsula. Compared to Railay, Tonsai is more quieter and secluded, where the cliffs here hang right over your head. As you might expect, it's got a reputation in the climbing community with several walls open to try. There's a pretty wicked wall on the north beach, but I didn't see anyone on it. It must be a zoning thing for the area, but I don't really know. There's only one main restaurant on the whole beach side, which has food and drinks, and occasionally hosts small dance parties. I found a small, shaded, co-working space in a tree just nearby, and there, a couple little spots just scattered around Tonsai to make it worth the while to stay here for a few nights. There is a path that connects both Tonsai and Railay Beach. It's pretty trekked out and leads through a small, forested, rocky area to connecting the two beachfronts. Should take roughly 10 to 15 minutes to make it across. There are a lot more boats now transferring people on and off the beach, and it's definitely way more busier now while still maintaining that hippie culture we've come to expect. The signature droopy limestone cliffs that loom over the walkway are still fun to explore, and we eventually made our way back to Phang Nga Cave Beach, which still takes top billing as my favorite place in Railay. Most of the beach isn't very shaded, but we found our small, secluded beach near the end. It still amazes me that this is a legitimate, real place, and the magnitude of Thailand's natural beauty all around still hasn't worn off. In short, Railay Beach is like a tropical paradise on steroids. The surrounding cliffs create a sense of seclusion and tranquility, and the overall vibe of locals is mostly laid back and peaceful. The Sunset Beach on the west part of the peninsula is simply stunning. There are kayaks that go out over the small bay, and folks just hang out and enjoy the last rays of the day before the sun completely sets on the horizon. Fire shows are still a big hit, and they might occasionally pull out all the stops for a spectacle. I ended up taking a boat back from Tonsai to Onang for 100 Thai baht. Getting out of the surge can be somewhat choppy. Krabi has a reputation for having world-class Muay Thai gyms, and I wanted to live and train on site. It took time for my body to get acclimated to the heat, and training with some of the older local trainers who have had over 200 professional fights each is something I didn't take for granted. Classes are about 2.5 grueling hours in total and are held twice a day, 6 days a week. There's downtime in between, and it's a good way to know the coaches, eat food, and have fun training. Back in downtown Krabi, it's business as usual, with just about every business revamped and open to welcoming travelers back to Thailand. They did some enhancements with the ocean boardwalk, making it easier and safer for pedestrians and motorists to avoid accidents and collisions. All that went completely out the window when Songkran came to town and the locals bust out the water cannons to celebrate the Thai New Year. It's a fun multi-day celebration of splashing each other with water, so don't expect to walk down the street without getting completely drenched. After a 40-minute drive from town, we went to the Dragon Crest Mountain to hike up a grueling, steep trail that leads to a rock ledge overlooking a valley. The cost is 200 Thai baht for foreigners, but after a tough hike, it leads you to some pretty spectacular views. I recommend starting the hike really early in the morning, bringing plenty of water, and good traction shoes for one of the best views in Krabi. We left Krabi to drive 2 hours northwest on a minibus towards the small town of Phang Nga. This was the closest we can get to Phang Nga Bay, and ultimately decided to rent a private boat to take us all around the dramatic sights of the bay. The next day, we departed from the pier to take a 9-hour tour of Phang Nga Bay on a private boat directly with the locals. After guiding our way through the thick mangrove forests, I took the drone up to survey the landscape. Even though it was very hazy, the views from above are just remarkable. Our boat also wasn't exactly a luxury vessel, but that's just part of the experience, I think. We eventually made our way to a clearing and were able to navigate through some of these low-lying cave systems on the water. It's a unique experience just floating amongst these peaks jetting out from below, and I could have spent the entire day sitting on the bow admiring these views. We made several stops along the way to check out some of the smaller caves. There's a lot of interesting formations to be found, and the small flashlight I was given was barely working. In any case, there were small outcrops to be found inside, and even some monkeys hiding in the trees. This was also the time that a lot of the tourists from Phuket began to arrive, so we sailed off into the open waters once again, had our lunch on a semi-secluded beach, and had a refreshing swim in the water. The next destination for us on the tour is undoubtedly one of the most popular in the bay. Its signature, peculiar shape and prominence in a popular film makes it a famous destination for tourists and film enthusiasts. Of course, the island I'm talking about is James Bond Island. It was featured in the James Bond film, The Man with the Golden Gun, and since then has become very commercialized and tourist-centric for people looking to get their photo taken in front of it. The island is freestanding, almost defying gravity in a way, and there are also a few other oddities on the island worth seeing. Like this perfectly cut slab of limestone that somehow leans onto another rock and creates the illusion of a chapel. It's cool to walk around and take in all the sights of this island, and my recommendation is to either come early in the morning or later in the evening to beat some of the crowds. We sailed off once again and eventually came up to Koh Phangan, a floating fishing village built at the end of the 18th century by nomadic Muslim families from Java Island, Indonesia. It's home to about 1,600 people permanently living on the island, selling seafood, souvenirs. There's even a school for kids and a makeshift football pitch to play sports on the water. I'm not exactly sure how everything has been holding up together, especially on stilts, but this community finds ways to craft and engineer planks and concrete together in some form of superhuman engineering. It was exciting and eye-opening seeing how people live and survive on the water for so many years. We eventually made our return trip back to the pier around 5 o'clock and were driven back to our accommodation in Phang Nga. Finally, before leaving the area, we went to Samet Nangshe viewpoint to take in one last view of the bay. It's a bumpy, dusty ride to the top, but once you're dropped off, it's a great spot for photographers. The views are vast, unobstructed, and simply cannot be beat. There's a very prominent outcrop of limestone rising out of the water that seems to remind me of a shark's top dorsal fin. There are makeshift tents you can rent to sleep under the stars at the small, lesser-known area as well. In my next video, I'm making a guide to all things Vietnam. It was my first time arriving to this unique country, and I could see myself returning to it in the future. It's a vast country with a lot of history, warm people, and incredible food. So thanks for watching, subscribe if you're new to my channel, and I'll see you next time.